Welcome back. Tiki welcomes you back. This is my 2004/5 Dodge Dakota with a 4.7 liter V8. The other day I was coming home and it overheated. Not a lot, but it overheated enough that the check gauges light came on. So I had a little bit of a coolant issue with this thing last summer. I fixed it. I thought I fixed it. I did fix it. It stopped leaking. But it was leaking a little bit of coolant out of the heater hose, the inlet to the heater core, like a drip every once in a while under full pressure. So apparently that finally caught up with me. And my coolant was low. I'm going to show how I checked that in a minute. I'm not actually going to check it because I already did, and I know what's wrong with it. This video is actually more about the secondary problem here. This truck has two cooling fans. It has an electric cooling fan, and it has a clutch-driven cooling fan that runs off the engine. I've been getting really poor gas mileage. This thing's a pig to begin with. If I get 13 miles to the gallon on the highway, I'm doing good. But it's been getting worse and worse lately. So I did a little bit of poking around on the interwebs, and I was a mechanic for 30 years. And I kind of came to the conclusion that after it had overheated that I had the clutch fan starting to go bad on this thing. And all the other indicators also, along with the overheating. So I'm going to reset real quick here and just do a quick shot of my cooling tester kit and explain how it works. But I'm not going to actually use it. Now, I got to put Tiki down for that. So this is a Stant? No, this is a Blue Point. This is a cooling tester, cooling system testing kit. So basically the way this one works is, and these are all kind of not used. These are adapters for radiator caps, and this isn't part of the kit. This is part of something else. So the way this one works is it has an air bladder. You put this in. We're gonna simulate a radiator cap for a second here. So we'll assume that this is your radiator cap. You put that booger on there like that. You adjust this. I'm actually using this particular part of the tool backwards. These are designed for testing caps, but I kind of thought that this would be a better way to show how this thing works. So you put this on like that, like that, like that, so it's nice and tight. And then it's got this valve on it. One says system, the other is bladder. So you tighten it, close it, and then you push this until it says bladder. And then inside of here, you'll see this creates a seal on the inside. This is the radiator neck. This is the cap. Then you switch it over to system, and then you pressurize the system like you would normally. This is a universal kit to test pretty much any type of radiator, any type of cooling system. I've actually used it for motorcycle tanks also. And then you that's it. These are for radiator caps, so you can actually test the cap. This is the only part you really ever use. That's a spare bladder. They're kind of expensive. So this truck has a really peculiar radiator fill on it, and it's here. I'm going to take the camera off and show it. So the radiator cap on this is here. The radiator is actually buried underneath all this plastic stuff. This is your washer bottle and your coolant overflow. So the radiator cap is actually in the top hose. The problem that creates is this isn't the highest point in the system. So you end up having to use this funnel. This is a special funnel with an adapter. That's what this is for, actually. And I'm missing the gasket. Damn it. Oh, I wonder why that's why it wasn't working right. Huh, I'm gonna have to open this anyway. That's why it went. Yeah. So the other night I was having a lot of trouble getting the cap on, and it's because this gasket was in there, and that explains everything. We had a bit of a downpour here the other day, and this truck doesn't fit all the way into my garage, so I ended up having to put this back together and pull the truck outside, because if I don't, I get water in the garage. Long story. So the way this works is, this then creates the highest point in the system. If you don't have a funnel like this to fill this particular vehicle, you'll run into problems. It'll get airbound and it won't burp properly, which I've had a very similar problem. The Durango, the 5.8 Durango, has a hose that comes off the top of the engine, goes this way, and it really creates a problem. The camera's shaking, that's because Tiki's tied up in it. So the way this works is it uses gravity, and it creates the highest point in the system. You pour, I'm not going to do it because I already did it. You fill the coolant in here up real high, you run the truck, eventually all the air will come out of it. If you don't do it, it creates a real kind of an issue. So what we have here, I was hoping this was going to be a little easier, is, change my angle here a little so I get the light in here. So this is the clutch fan. Now, this one it doesn't seem bad now, but this is a thermal fluidic clutch. So basically it has a little bimetallic strip in it, which I'll show in a minute, that expands and opens a valve, which then locks this up under power. Now, the other day when I was doing this, when it was hot, I could spin this freely, and it was just spinning and spinning and spinning. Now, that's an indicator that this is a bad deal. So the next step is I'm going to try to get this off without having to take this shroud off, because that's all full of fluid. Don't mind the shaky cam. I'm just going to do a little bit of tool porn here. This is a toolkit specifically designed to remove fan clutches. So what it does is, or the way it works is, you're going to see it in a second, but these are the wrenches, and this is a long adapter for your air chisel. You have to have a air chisel right here, and this attaches to this like that. I don't have a tripod set up. That attaches to that like that. Then you attach this, and these are all marked. The pink dots are to tell all the people that borrow my shit that it's mine. So, we'll set up the other shot, and then we'll show you how this tool works. This should be an easy job. Alright, well, after a little bit of a difluidity with my camera mount, which just broke, we're back in action here. So the way this works is, this goes on here like this, and this is actually a righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, which is kind of nice. Now my chisel, Tiki, for God's sake. The trigger on my chisel's broken. I think that's any surprise to anybody. broken. That goes there, and that should just go bang, one shot, and that should come loose. And what's going to happen is when I plug my chisel in, it's going to go bonkers for a second. I think I'm actually using this backwards. Yeah, I was using it backwards. Oh, I wonder why it won't work. It's easier to put this together off. Hold on. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Now I didn't take the fan blade off because you can't. Now this should, so says in the book, this should just pop this loose. And like I said there, my chisel's kind of stuck on the run position. That actually worked. So now, I'm going to use the wrench here to kind of get a better grip on it. Okay, now hopefully, so it says in the book, this will spin off. Let's see. Now what's going to happen, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not careful, which I rarely am, fan's going to fall off of this thing. The whole assembly, this assembly is actually kind of heavy. I'll put this big winch bumper on my truck. Don't. Well, luckily there's no we can't get to the radiator. So there is the fan clutch assembly. So here's the fan clutch assembly. And wow, they feel about the same, but I know they're not. It's not right. All right, so we'll take this over to the bench and swap it out. Actually, no, I don't even have to do that. I'm gonna do it right here. Now, these are 13 millimeters. And they're on there to a torque specification. Before I go too far on this, I'm just going to inspect the fan real quick to make sure there's nothing overtly wrong with it. Now I just dropped that on the floor real quick to knock it loose. I should be doing this on the bench. It's kind of stupid to do it this way. But my benches are all covered with crap as usual. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot of wear or anything, and the blades aren't too beat up. They have a very particular shape that you want to kind of retain. You don't want to make it. I'm looking for rust. I'm looking for cracks. There's a little bit of surface rust, but nothing that I'm concerned about. These are rivets on here. It says front on it, which is kind of nice. I did a Prius one time. I put one of the fans on backwards. Some genius at Toyota thought it was a good idea to have one fan spin one way and one fan spin the other way. Poor lady had no air conditioning and couldn't figure out why, and then she actually found it. It was an embarrassing day. So that just clocks right back on. I'm going to use a little bit of red Loctite here to hold these on with. I know everybody says don't use red, don't use red, don't use red. Well, you know what? I'm using red. Mainly because that's what I got. But also, I don't want this thing coming apart. I don't know if it's I have a limp wrist or I've got a, I don't know, I may have a limp wrist. But I've been having a lot of things back apart. I think because I don't use a torque wrench, which I probably should. I'm sure there's a torque specification for this somewhere. Well, I'm going to run these down real quick. The impact gun. And then I'm going to just do a real quick tighten with a hand ratchet. I have a feeling the socket might be cracked. That's pretty tight. That's tight. That's tight. Okay. Now the trick's going to be getting this one back on. So just a quick comparison between the old one and the new one. The new one is considerably larger than the old one. I wonder if that's going to be a problem. It looks like just like it has more cooling fans on it. This ring looks like it's extra. Huh, guess I should have looked at that before I put it apart, huh? Screw this goes down. Yeah, that's weird. I hope that doesn't cause a problem. Check to make sure these are. Yeah, they look like the same size nut. Maybe it's a retrofit. This is an aftermarket part. It's not a Dodge part. Be kind of careful not to cross thread this because this is the main, goes right into the water pump. Don't really want to put a water pump on this thing. I'm going to shut the camera off for a minute. This is going to take a little bit longer than I wanted it to, and I don't want to run out of camera battery. Well, after a considerable amount of probably unnecessary cursing, I got the fan clutch to start on the nib that was there, or the head of the bolt. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. This isn't the first one of these I've done. It's the first one I've done on this truck, but not the first one in general. The other funny thing I did was drop the wrench twice, and now I can't find the wrench at all. is, right in front of me. So, I didn't put Loctite on this. Now, I'm going to say that's probably a mistake on my part, but I'm afraid if I put Loctite on it, it's going to cause problems down the road getting it off. I mean, they're a pretty tight fit out of the box. There should be no slop in it. So what I am going to do is put it back on with the same tool I took it off with to make sure that it's pretty tight. Alright, that's as tight as I think I can get it. I think maybe I'll take this one apart, maybe. I know, it looks like it's pressed together. No, it's pressed together. We're not going to take that one apart. Cheeky. Why is it that a dog will always find a tied up dog will always find a way to get tangled up into something? I'm just going to do a quick spin of the fan here. Now, shockingly, this one doesn't seem like it's changed at all. The belt's got a lot of glaze on it, though. I wonder, it's too late now. I don't feel like taking the belt off. There's a lot of sticky stuff around where the fan was, so I'm wondering if maybe that fan had leaked out some of its goodness on the inside. Let's get a nice wide shot here, so if it comes apart, you can see how spectacular it'll be. Well, it didn't fly apart immediately. I'm going to take it out for a test drive. I don't want to run it too long because I have an oxygen sensor I got to fiddle with on this thing also. I don't know. Maybe it was a combination of issues, but I know the other day when it was overheating, I could just take this fan and spin it like it wasn't even there. So I don't know if it got hot or whatever. So that's the fan job, and I guess we'll figure out what happens from there next. Thanks for watching. Maybe you learned something.